Welcome back, my friends, to the D-Rate the Hate podcast. I am Wilk from wilksworld.com, and this is episode 13 of the D-Rate the Hate podcast. And this is actually going to be part 2 of our series on the book by Dr. Stephen Covey, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So part 2 is naturally going to start with habit 2 in our little mini-series here, and that is going to be personal leadership, beginning with the end in mind, and then we'll kind of trail that or follow that up with habit 3, which is a management principle, and that gets into time management and putting first things first. First, we're going to recap. Habit 1 is being proactive and being responsible, getting to the point where you as an individual understand that you are able to choose your response and how you're going to deal with the circumstances presented in your life. Understanding that you as an individual, you as a person, have the power to and should always take that power to make sure you're able to choose your responses. You are going to be proactive, and you are going to make sure that you are in control of your life. So that's habit 1, being proactive, being responsible, able to choose your response. So that's habit 1. And if you didn't get a chance to listen to episode 12 where I start this small series, just jump back and listen to episode 12, and you'll get to hear about habit 1 of Dr. Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Habit 2 is a leadership quality, and that is beginning with the end in mind. Begin with the end in mind is habit 2. And when Dr. Covey is talking about beginning with the end in mind, he starts with a visualization exercise, or one of the ways that he explains it is a visualization exercise, and you have to, in your mind's eye, you have to kind of step outside yourself and visualize yourself going to a funeral, and as you get to the funeral and you walk up and everybody's walking up to the casket, and you see who's in that casket, and that casket is filled with you. And as you're sitting there at that funeral, there's a number of people speaking, and those people speaking are somebody from your family, somebody from your work, your coworker, your peers, somebody from your group of friends, your group of close friends, and then maybe somebody from a social group or a church that you belong to. And he wants you to visualize at the end of your life, what would those people say about you? Now, take it from me. I got to tell you, as I've said before in this podcast, I used to be a very negative person, and there is a lot of people out there that I've known over the course of my life that would probably say so. And I used to be the type of person that would say, I really don't care what anybody thinks about me. I'm just going to be me. But what I want you to do is I want you to really step inside this visualization exercise. And Dr. Covey explains it much better than I ever could. But the idea that you're going to take this group of 4 speakers, and from every aspect of your life, whether it be family, friends, co-workers, or whether it be church or some kind of social club that you're involved in, and what would they say about you? What would they talk about in your life, your accomplishments, your whether it be your giving nature or how you interacted with people, or how hard of a worker you were, or your honesty. The point of this exercise is really to help you develop a mission statement for your life, help you develop a set of roles and goals, some type of value system by which you live your life. And that's why it's called a leadership principle and a leadership visualization exercise, because in the grand scheme of things, what do you want your life to be about? What do you want to accomplish in your life? Therefore, like I said, mission statement. How do you want your life to be remembered? Do you want to be remembered as a old curmudgeon that nobody wanted to be around, or do you want to be, just that same person that, is a workaholic and you do nothing but work all the time and you never spend any time with your family because it's always about work, work, work? Or, there's any number of examples that can be brought up. But how do you want to be remembered by those closest to you? And how do you want to remember yourself? So again, habit 2 is begin with the end in mind. Build that value system, build that mission statement by which you are going to live. And then you have to stick to it. If it's, write it down. Put some asterisks next to the important parts that you have to remember. Pull it out whenever you get a chance. I mean, if you got to put a little piece of paper in your wallet or your purse or whatever the case may be, but highlight all the important parts. And every time you start to stray from that value system, every time you start to stray from that personal mission statement, realize what is it that you want to be remembered for when it all comes to an end. So beginning with the end in mind is a huge part of personal leadership. How are you going to lead yourself through the rest of your life? And what do you want to be remembered for when it all comes to an end? So habit 2 is, and again, like I said, you've got to read the book to get the full perspective on so many more examples and such a better in-depth explanation of this concept. But beginning with the end in mind, how do you want to be remembered when it's all over? How do you, and even if it's not by anybody else, but just for yourself, beginning with the end in mind, make sure you develop that value system. Make sure you develop that set of roles and goals that you're going to live your life by, so that when it all ends, you remember yourself and everybody around you remembers that person that you wanted you to be. So with that, we'll dive right into habit 3. And habit 3 is putting first things first. Dr. Covey talks about it's basically a 4-quadrant grid that has to do completely with time management. And putting first things first really starts with 2 dimensions of time and 2 dimensions of time management. One being urgent and one being important. So if you can imagine a box, just a square, with 4 squares inside it, just a cross right in the middle. And in the upper left-hand side, quadrant 1, you have both urgent and important. And if you think about it, if it's urgent and important, now we're in crisis mode. Okay, these things are generally known as problems. Okay, and then the next quadrant, quadrant 2, up in the upper right-hand corner, is going to be important but not urgent. This is going to be literally the most important quadrant. This is where we want all of or the majority of our time spent. Now in the bottom left-hand corner, we've got what is urgent but not important. And then obviously what's left is quadrant 4, bottom right-hand corner, what is not urgent, not important. Basically, nothing of any worth is going to be in quadrant 4. Okay, this is a bunch of waste of time garbage, like, social media. A lot of people spend a lot of time on social media, and they just get themselves whooped up into, crazy frustration that's not worth anything. A lot of unneeded time thinking about things you can't control, watching television, doing things that really have no worth at all. That's quadrant 4. So quadrant 1, crises, problems. Quadrant 2, Quadrant 2 is important. These are things that need to get done. We got to spend time doing them, but they're not urgent. They have not reached the point of urgent, and we don't want them to reach the point of urgent, because if they reach the point of urgent, now we are in crisis management mode, and you cannot manage by crisis. One thing from being in management for several years now, one thing that I have seen and one thing that causes more problems than anything is those people who constantly believe everything is a crisis. It's urgent. We've got to get to it right now. All the shiny coins here, there, everywhere. Squirrel, got to run this way, got to run that way. Everything's got to be dealt with right now because everything is a crisis. That is a terrible way to manage anything. It's a terrible way to manage your life. It's a terrible way to manage business. It's a terrible way to manage your relationships. Anything that is in quadrant 1 that deserves to be dealt with because it is important needs to be dealt with before it becomes urgent. Therefore, it needs to be dealt with when it's still in quadrant 2. Everything of real importance is in quadrant 2. Quadrant 3, again, is something that's urgent but not important. And, there's things that, yes, there's things that will come up, a friend's crisis that you're going to want to deal with because, yeah, they do mean something to you. They are important, but it is really not your crisis. It's their crisis, and sometimes you just have to say no. Because, again, if you go back into a former podcast from the D-Rate the Hate podcast, sometimes saying no is a very important part of being responsible and understanding that not every crisis is your crisis. So other people's crises may be something that you want to deal with, but that's going to be in quadrant 3, urgent but not important. And then again, quadrant 4, there's really nothing of any value in quadrant 4. Dr. Covey talks about leisure time. Leisure time is important. Family time is important. But you don't want that family time and that leisure time to get to the point of urgency, because if it does get to the point of urgency, now you're building anxiety because now you feel like you have to do it and you've got to do it now and you've got to put off other things to do it, and now you're managing by crisis again. That is not the way to manage. So you have to take what is important and deal with the important things in life, whether it be leisure time. One of the great things in my life, some of the greatest things in my life, beyond and above my family, which is very, very important. But for me personally, I've got hunting, I've got fishing, I've got riding my motorcycle. I love to get out and ride on my Harley with my wife and do things like that, and there's often times where I don't do that, but that leisure time is very, very important. We've got to keep those things, those important things, in quadrant 2 and do them before they become urgent. And so time management, we have to realize that we have to manage before management becomes management by crisis. We've got to manage our life. And we do that in conjunction with Habit 2. Habit 2 is our mission statement, our values, our value, the roles and goals that we have built for ourselves. How do we begin with the end in mind, realize what we want out of our life, and then use that mission statement to build the life that we want going forward. And those things are all very, very important. So habit 2 is leadership. How do we build that value system? How do we build those roles and goals? How do we follow that mission statement? We have to do that by proper time management. We have to manage our everyday life. We have to manage the things that we do in a proper way. And as long as we are able to manage our day-to-day life in coordination with our full mission statement, what we want out of our life, beginning with the end in mind, knowing where we want to go, and properly managing our day-to-day life in order to get there, and being true to ourselves, and doing that in coordination with habit 1, being proactive, understanding that we have the power, we have the ability to control the circumstances by which we are going to react to everything in our life. So now we've got our 3 habits: being proactive, being responsible, being a leader of our own life, leading ourselves towards that mission statement, and managing our day-to-day life in a manner in which we follow through with that mission statement. We are well on our way to being an effective person, just as Dr. Stephen Covey talks about in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Okay, so habit 1, be proactive. Habit 2, begin with the end in mind. And habit 3 is putting first things first. So that's going to wrap up this episode. So right now what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a story that just blew up my heart this week. It's a story about a high school football player. He used to be a high school football player. Now he's a former Marine who happened to be in the right place at the right time. And this young man did something that I can't even comprehend the heroic act that he did. But there was an apartment fire. He was at a friend's house or a friend's apartment, and there was a fire on the 3rd floor, and they heard screaming and they heard commotion, and they ran outside, and there's a woman on the balcony of the 3rd floor apartment, and she had her little baby in her arms, and there was people telling her to throw the baby down, and I'll be honest, I'm getting a little choked up just thinking about this. I've seen the video, and it's just absolutely horrific. But this young man, the woman threw the little toddler, the little baby, off the 3rd floor balcony, and he just sprang into action and just without it, just ran and caught this little baby, dropped 3rd floor, or from the 3rd floor, and he said he just got tunnel vision and saw the baby falling and made a miraculous catch, and unfortunately the mother in this situation did not make it through the fire. She did pass away, but that little baby now has an opportunity to live because of the actions of this young man here. So Philip Blanks from Kalamazoo, Michigan. He was a star football player at Central High School in Michigan at one point in time a decade ago, and those skills proved very useful. This past week when this apartment fire was taking place, and unfortunately, like I said, the woman did not make it through the fire, but she threw her young child from the 3rd floor balcony, and Philip Blanks, an amazing young man, was able to catch that baby, and that baby has an opportunity to live his life now because of him. Just absolutely heroic act, and one of the things that will absolutely put a mark on my heart forever, because things like that are things that everybody needs to know about. No regard for oneself, absolutely doing the right thing, and using a skill set that maybe only he had, and being in the right place at the right time to do the right thing. So way to go, Philip. You're an amazing man, and thank you, God, for the fact that you were there at the right time. So with that, I'm going to wrap up this week's episode of the Derate the Hate podcast. Like I do every week, I'm going to tell you, when you get a chance to get out there, be kind to one another, be grateful for everything that you've got, and remember, it's up to you to make each and every day the day that you want it to be. And until next week, we'll continue this little series. Next week, we'll catch you then. Thanks a lot. Bye.